Once again. Thank you for joining us. We are going to get started with the webinar today, part of our Citrix Ready technical webinar series, where we bring to you our partner solutions that are well integrated with the latest Citrix products and services. I am Sagnik Datta. I am your host for today. I am part of the Citrix Ready team leading the technical marketing activities for the desktop ecosystem. Today we have invited our partner EG Innovation, who will be showcasing some of the latest offerings that stands today with the Citrix solution stack. We will be talking about managing Citrix business services performance, essential to our digital workspace story. And EG Innovation is one of our proud early partners who joined hands in our vision of digital transformation of workspaces for our customers. So I'm very proud to have them here. Our main speaker for today's webinar is John Worthington. He's the Director of Product Marketing at EG Innovations. Next slide, please. To shortly introduce you to Citrix Ready, our program is an end-to-end technology partner program. We help you make a better purchase decision when looking out for third-party products that work with Citrix. We showcase these on the Citrix Ready Marketplace. That's the link shared on the slide. And if you're willing to partner us, feel free to reach out to us on the second link. Moving on, I will soon let John to get the ball rolling, but before I do that, just a couple of logistic items. Please submit your questions at any time during the webinar using the question panels on the GoToWebinar client that's on your right side. And this webinar is recorded, so you will receive a link to the recording in a few days. A copy of this presentation will be posted on the slide share on the links submitted below. With that, I will let John take you away.
Okay, great. Thanks, Sagnik, and welcome everyone. Our agenda is pretty simple today. We'll give you a quick introduction to EG Innovations and then talk about the importance of logon experience for Citrix services and how that first impression can really make or break your relationship with your consumers. Now, of course, to make a lasting impression, the applications and desktops your consumers need to use as part of their digital workspace are going to need to perform as well. So we're going to include a demonstration of how you can achieve this, both a good first impression by monitoring the Citrix logon experience, and then we'll demonstrate how you can make a lasting impression by assuring the performance of Citrix business services end-to-end. And of course, as usual, we'll take some questions before we conclude our session today. So let me start by giving you a brief introduction to EG Innovations and our relationship with Citrix. EG Innovations has been working with Citrix for over a decade and has been a Citrix Ready partner since 2010. We have extensive domain experience with Citrix, including XenApp, XenDesktop, NetScaler, and other components like a Director, License Server, Provisioning Server, Secure Gateway. Pretty much anything Citrix is supported out of the box with EG Enterprise. But the ability to monitor the Citrix infrastructure end-to-end from a business service perspective rather than as individual silos really represents the unique value proposition of the EG Enterprise Suite for Citrix customers and their partners. We're also very proud of the fact that we've been selected by Citrix as the exclusive performance monitoring solution for Synergy and Summit for the last couple of years, and I've always had a great working relationship with the team at Citrix. Now, here's what EG Enterprise does. EG Enterprise takes measurements at every layer of every component of an end-to-end IT service, learns the norms of all measurements, and through a patented data flow and dependency-based analytics, will automatically isolate which layer of which component is the source of a performance issue. Now, today we do this across any cloud deployment model, public, private, or hybrid, and from code to bare metal. And now the last thing I wanted to comment on was our really unique user interface, and you'll see this in the demo. The combination of our embedded analytics and our layered approach to organizing measurement data really make learning to use EG Enterprise, I think, fairly straightforward. So whether you're a developer, a domain administrator, or a service desk analyst, the product can be easily tailored and used by everyone without a lot of hassle. So as Citrix customers expand digital workspace services to include heterogeneous components, the combination of Citrix and EG Enterprise can be a catalyst for IT transformation. And EG Innovations provides tailored support services and training that can be integrated into a transformation roadmap to make sure that organizational capabilities are in place as the scope of your monitoring increases. So with that as background, let's talk about first impressions and the Logon experience. Now, obviously, when a consumer attempts to log on to their digital workspace, that's the first impression they'll have about the quality of service delivery. But today, these consumers are increasingly mobile and work from anywhere. And that means they may be logging on multiple times throughout the day and from different locations. So this morning I might be with a client wearing my wingtips, and this afternoon I might be home wearing my sneakers. But the work I need to do at both places is important. And every time I log into my digital workspace, as a service provider, you make another impression, good or bad. So the first part of our session today is going to focus on this first impression and the logon experience. Now, what I want to do is a quick level set on business services first. A service is a means of delivering value to customers by facilitating outcomes that customers want to achieve. And as a service provider, they pay you to assume the costs and risks, right? So now this definition of a service doesn't assume that it's necessarily an IT service either. It may or may not be underpinned by technology. But of course, the number of services that have absolutely no technology components is almost zero these days. And so that's why we hear so much about digital services. Digital business services need to be accessed at any time, from anywhere, and on any device. And they're also underpinned by a wide range of technologies and supporting IT services that could be from any number of different suppliers. Now, what this means for Citrix Workspace services is that your consumers, right, are going to want access to any application from anywhere, and these consumers demand very high levels of performance, and managing the end user experiences has become critical. And these users don't know and don't want to know about what's underneath the iceberg. Whether it's public, private, or hybrid cloud really doesn't matter to them. It's the end-to-end experience that's going to matter to them. Citrix Workspace services, regardless of whether they're delivered via public, private, or hybrid cloud, focus on really a primary outcome, and that is giving the consumer access to their digital business services at any time, from any place, and with any device. Now, of course, they expect security administration to be provided over this as well. They kind of assume that. But as we mentioned earlier, the first impression a consumer has with a digital workspace is simply logging on to a desired application or desktop. So with logon performance being a primary desired outcome of workspace services, it's critical that this outcome is effectively monitored. But there are dozens of steps involved in collecting logon metrics and multiple components. Finding out why Citrix Logon is slow is not always so easy. And that's one reason why we've provided a free Logon Simulator for Citrix XenApp and Xen Desktop. The EG Logon Simulator for Citrix XenApp or Xen Desktop simulates the exact same process that users execute to log on. So we simulate a user logging on to either a Citrix storefront or a NetScaler gateway through a web browser, review the list of published applications or desktops, select which application or desktop they want, launch each selection sequentially by initiating a session, wait until the application successfully launches, and then log off from the session. The Logon Simulator can identify slow session logon, session disconnects, authentication failures, application unavailability, slow enumeration or launch, or sessions not starting after logon. Now, since it's a simulation, you can set it up to test at regular intervals or from multiple endpoints and compare performance across remote locations. You can test real-time logon performance 24/7 and support multiple applications per user and or multiple users from the same endpoint. It provides detailed diagnostics and analysis of logon performance, and we'll see that in a minute in the demo. The Citrix Logon Simulator is available as a free cloud service from EG Innovations, and it's called the EG Enterprise Express. Now, it won't allow you to monitor your Citrix or non-Citrix infrastructure and applications, and it doesn't monitor real user logon, but it's still pretty useful. It's a simulated logon, but it's still pretty useful for helping you assure that the first impression you make with your customers is a good one. And you can register for the free Logon Simulator just by going to our website. So let's go ahead and take a look at how this works. What I'm going to do is bring you into this is the home page for the free EG Enterprise Express Logon Simulator. And there's an admin tab that allows you to configure simulations and download agents, and there's a reporter tab where you can generate reports based on simulations and applications, and all the documentation is made available online in the product just by clicking on this question mark icon here. So the only component you're going to see when you use the free Express EG Enterprise Express Logon Simulator is the actual Logon Simulator itself. And when you click on this, what you're going to see is a list of simulations, and it looks something like this. In this demonstration environment, what we've done is configured a number of different simulations that are running. And we can see very easily, based on our color coding, in the EG interface, green is normal, blue would be unknown, typically under maintenance, yellow would be a minor alert, orange would be major, and red would be a critical alert. So we can see at a glance that we've got some couple of major alerts, major alert in this help desk simulation, and a major alert in the Outlook simulation as well. And we can see information about the simulation. We can also see information about the logon availability and duration, the enumeration availability, the application launch and duration, and it even shows us by color coding where in the simulation the issue is originating. And anywhere you see this looking glass icon, it means that we have detailed diagnosis information available. What happens is, since we learn the norms of all measurements, when something deviates from normal behavior, the monitor is smart enough to ask for additional information. So we've got additional information on this logon simulation. We can click the detailed diagnosis icon, and what we see is a graphical representation of every step in the logon process. So for logon, we have client processing, URL access and authentication, and then we have on application launch enumeration, session establishment, and the actual application launch. We can see the total time in the middle is 118 seconds, and we can see by the color coding that application launch is really taking 77 seconds, so that's where the issue is. We can actually go to the Details tab and take a look at the script associated with this logon simulation. And we can look at each detail of the script, and this will match, I think we'll see 94 seconds here is where our issue was on application launch. Here it is down here. All right, so we can also take a look at measure graphs or summary graphs of the simulation. We can actually do trending of the simulation. So if you're looking at a particular location or time of week or whatever, you can see if there's trends associated with that. We can alarm on this as well. And as usual, we provide fixed history and fixed feedback that allows your staff to easily share knowledge and improve their service over time. So we could take a look at that was the help desk. We could take a look at the detailed diagnosis in the Outlook simulation and see what that looks like. In this case, application launch is not where the issue is. It's clearly on logon, and it's specifically in the authentication area. So this was a very brief example of how you can use the EG Enterprise Express Logon simulator to simulate logon experience at different locations or for different users and different applications to try and make a good first impression when your users access their digital workspace. But of course, once they log on, that's not the end of the impression. There'll be additional things that you'll need to worry about, and that's what I want to talk about next. So now that we've tried to assure that users are going to be able to consistently log on to their digital workspace without too many issues, hopefully you've made a good first impression. But to make a lasting impression, the applications and desktops that the consumers are accessing are also going to need to perform. So let's talk about that a little bit. Now, this has been a top challenge of Citrix administrators for years. Managing the end user performance of digital business services is mission critical today. And as we stated before, these services are underpinned by a heterogeneous mix of platforms and devices typically from many different suppliers. Citrix administrators often have their hands full with the Citrix delivery infrastructure, let alone other platforms. And again, end users don't care. All they see is the tip of the iceberg. You can complement simulated logon by monitoring the real user's logon experience as well. Now, this is available in EG Enterprise, not in the EG Enterprise Express product or service. And what this does is break down every step of the logon process and get actionable information to isolate issues and optimize the end user experience from a logon perspective, but it does it based in real time, based on real users. And again, we'll try and take a quick look at that. Now, the user experience, however, is going to include more than logging on. Printing may not work, applications might run slow, multimedia could be choppy, any number of things can happen. And the Citrix user experience issues, or the digital workspace user experience issues, really can originate in the network, on the client side, in the Citrix server, or other backend tiers like Active Directory, storage, database, virtualization, and so on. So the real question is, what happens after the user has successfully logged on? Remember, most digital business services are going to include many heterogeneous components and multi-vendor devices. The end user experience needs to include overall business transaction health, the health of the applications, as well as the supporting infrastructure health. The customer-facing IT services, or digital business services, if you prefer to use that term, are at the tip of an iceberg of complexity. And end user experience can be impacted by any number of issues beneath the waterline that your consumers see. So monitoring this kind of complexity is a significant challenge. The modern IT stack is diverse and distributed and continues to evolve at a rapid pace. And this presents another challenge with managing multiple tools. Now, while there'll always appear to be some overlapping functionality in performance monitoring environments, what's important to address is the key purpose of performance monitoring. You need to be able to anticipate issues before users are impacted, and when they are impacted, you need to find out why as quickly as possible. So addressing issues like false positives, lack of cross-domain correlation, finger pointing, and high cost of ownership really should be a primary objective of your monitoring portfolio. And these are really the challenges that EG Enterprise helps you address. Now, don't confuse the term, we like everyone else use the term single pane of glass, but don't confuse, when we say single pane of glass, we don't necessarily mean a single monitor. You're still going to need other tools like Citrix for security, provisioning, and other requirements. But to monitor the performance of end-to-end digital business services, a single pane of glass can provide, I think, many benefits. Giving a broad base of stakeholders a real-time, intelligent view of performance, guided by the end-user experience, can help assure Citrix Business Services once your consumers have successfully logged on. So let's go ahead and take another look and see what that looks like. So what I want to do is let's go ahead and let's go to this is a generic home page. And what I want to do real quick before we get into this is I mentioned that we can show real user logon experience. I want to just show you very quickly what that looks like. What I've done is open up a window that shows the logon details for this user, Tim. And in this upper left-hand panel of this window, it shows the session information. Tim is currently logged on. It shows us the session information for his particular session. It gives us a breakdown from the delivery controller of the logon time. And on the bottom panel, it shows us the session startup details, including the server startup duration, which is 4 or 5 seconds, and then the client startup duration, which is about 15 seconds. And so you can see we're giving you real-time logon information for this user. We even have extended the detail. Again, anywhere you see this diagnosis looking glass means we've collected additional information. In this case, we're giving you information about group policy processing. So again, this is throughout the monitor. Now, the other thing that we can take a look at is this is a dashboard that shows all of the services in our demonstration environment. And I'm going to take a look at Partner Access Service down here. And each of these services show, again, the coding. In this case, this service has got in a major alarm state. It shows us the components that make up the service on this little dashboard here. But let's go ahead and take a look at Partner Access. Now, what it immediately takes us to is a user experience window. Now this is emulated transactions. This is full session emulation. So we're monitoring login, we're performing tasks, and we're logging out. And we can see that Access Apps and Update Items has some response time issues. We can click on response time, and we're taking immediately to a service topology view. This is not necessarily a network topology. This is a service topology. It shows all of the logical components that make up the Partner Access Service. And this is an example of the end-to-end nature of the EG correlation. Each component has a layer model associated with it, and the topology graph or the topology model shows us the state of each component. We can see that most are green and are okay. We've got a minor issue in the storefront server, and we've got a major issue with XenApp. But before I drill down into XenApp, I wanted to just illustrate one thing. You notice this says external Oracle. When I click on that, it shows that this Oracle database is actually running in Microsoft Azure. So this is actually running in the cloud. And I should mention that we also support Citrix Cloud. So we have blueprints available and that allow you to leverage Citrix Cloud as well. So we can also drill down. Let's take a look at what's going on with this XenApp server. The other thing I should mention before I continue is you notice that there are some Citrix components. So the partner access service that we've successfully logged on, and we're using this partner access service, and there could be slowdowns that are not related. It may not necessarily be caused by the Citrix infrastructure. So I can click on the Citrix XenApp server, and it shows, oh, in this case, we're running on a virtual host, or maybe it's a private cloud, and it's clearly indicating that our critical issue is not on the XenApp server, it's on this vSphere host. So let's go ahead and click on that. And now what we're looking at, we saw the end-to-end nature of the correlation in the topology view. We're now looking at the top-to-bottom nature of the correlation. Each one of those components has a layer model that's specific to that component. In this case, we're looking at an ESX layer model, and we can see that we have a critical alert on the inside view of the virtual machine. The other thing that's interesting about this view is it shows that we can see both an outside and an inside perspective of the virtual machines. Let's go ahead and click on the inside view of the virtual machine. It shows us all the virtual machines that are running. All of them are green except this one. We can click on that and take a look inside the virtual machine and see we've definitely got some issues here. As usual, the diagnosis icon, we can click and it shows us that our issue is a process that's consuming 95% of CPU. Somebody's running a Samba backup job. So that's the cause of our issue. So this is an example of something that has nothing to do with Citrix that is impacting your digital business services in the infrastructure. But what if, let's go back to services real quick. And I want to look at a different service because it's not always, it may not always be in the infrastructure. It could be in an application. So let's take a look at SAP Story Commerce. This is a end-to-end service that we're looking at. And in this case, if you look, you'll notice this is real user monitoring. So these are real users using the SAP Store e-commerce service. And this real user monitoring dashboard gives us some key performance indicators at the top: number of page views per minute, the device distribution, number of unique sessions, application index score, page load time, errors. We can configure different geographic, regional, or local maps. We can, you know, if you were an e-commerce manager using this dashboard, you could configure different widgets and charts as you wanted. We can click on page load time because we can see by the color coding that we've got a minor issue here, and that'll bring up some detailed transaction snapshots. And I can click and get a geographic, or excuse me, a graphical representation of real user monitoring. It shows me the user information about the browser, the network connect time, content download time, and the server time. In this case, it's based on our diagram here. We can clearly see that the issue with this user's response time, this user's experience, is on the back end. It's definitely in the server. So the real user monitoring tells us where, but it doesn't really give us a root cause. It just says it's somewhere in the back end. Let's take a look at the topology. Again, this is the end-to-end view of the correlation. we can see we've got a number of alarms here. Let's go ahead and click on WebLogic, see if we can find out what's happening with this WebLogic server. We can go ahead and again click the detailed diagnosis. We notice we've got more details that we can see. We've got apparently got an error here somewhere. So now I can click this, and now a new window opens up. And I want to mention, for this particular transaction snapshot, this is the execution map for that transaction. This is transaction tracing. This is part of application performance management, right? So the icon is telling me I've got a bug in this Java Oracle WebLogic server. I can click that and very quickly go right to the details of that bug. That's what we call code level correlation. I can do the same thing for slowness in a Java server and actually get right down to the function in the code that's causing the slowness. So again, that's an example of code level correlation. I can do a similar thing in the WebLogic server just real quick, and then we'll get back and try and wrap things up for you. This is an example of a transaction snapshot and an application, transaction tracing map that shows the slowness is in the database query. It could be a remote call, it could be any number of things, and the transaction tracing will allow us to isolate that. But we can actually drill down and find out where the slow query is. So the point is, the services that are run of your digital workspace have infrastructure and application complexities associated with that, and we need to monitor those proactively and be able to very quickly isolate the cause of issues. Now, this is how you make a lasting impression with your users, right? And what I wanted to let you know is that we can provide a deep dive if you would like. Just contact us and we'd be happy to get into more detail. That was a pretty quick broad brush of some of the capabilities that we had. So to try and kind of wrap things up and give us some time for some questions, let's talk about managing Citrix Business Services performance and how you can make your first impressions last. Remember, focusing on quality is always from the perspective of the customer. The first impression of your customers have of your digital workspace is going to be logging on. But after that, the applications and desktops are going to need to meet minimum levels of service. Any digital business service will be recognized by customers as a coherent whole. And this end-to-end view is what the customer sees and is really all they care about. The challenge for IT is to be able to see from the customer's perspective, end-to-end, and also at every layer of every component, whether that's across public, private, or hybrid clouds, and from code to bare metal. So you can anticipate and prevent performance issues and quickly isolate them if they do happen. And this is going to require more than monitoring more than the Citrix infrastructure. Now, a primary outcome customers want from their digital workspace is to be able to access their applications and desktops from anywhere at any time and with any device. The EG Innovations Enterprise Express Logon Simulator and EG Enterprise can assure you consistent logon performance, 7x24, as well as monitor real user logon experience. And this is the first impression your users are going to have with their digital workspace. Now, of course, once that's done, the consumer is always going to raise the bar, right? You need to continue to maintain a minimum level of service performance. And this is as defined by your customers, right, in order to keep your users happy. And this is going to require an ability to monitor what's happening at every layer, every component of your digital business service end-to-end, and automatically isolate which layer of which component is the source of your performance issue. And of course, this is exactly what EG Enterprise does. We have the reach to monitor all Citrix tiers and supporting infrastructure, any type or scale, and give you a unified view of your Citrix business services. We can also provide the depth of monitoring from the real user experience to the applications in every Citrix and non-Citrix tier, automatically baselining every measurement all the time. And finally, we automatically discover and map the service topology, automatically diagnose performance issues, and can enable self-healing correlation for optimizing operational performance. Now, EG Innovations will work with Citrix and Citrix Ready partners to help you maximize the value out of your monitoring investments. And this typically starts with some discovery to understand where you're starting from and identify a path forward that both minimizes your risk and maximizes the return on your initial investment. And we've been pretty successful doing this, giving customers these quick wins in performance management for really over a decade. And I think these statistics from Tech Validate prove that statement. We can also work with your Citrix team, your partners, and your staff to integrate EG Enterprise into an overall IT transformation path and take advantage of the quick wins that you've realized and build momentum and accelerate your IT transformation. So with that, I want to thank you all very much and open it up for any questions.
Thank you, John. I think let's then move to the Q&A session. We have a couple of questions that has been asked, so I will shoot one by one to you.
Sure.
So the question is this agent based on agentless? Is this agent based or is it agentless?
Well, there's a component what we call the EG Universal Agent, and that acts as a data collector, and that can be configured to work in an agentless fashion. So, for example, you could use SNMP or APIs and collect data remotely in the agentlessly. But we can also deploy the agent, or if you want to call it a data collector, we can also deploy that directly on a server. And that would be an agent-based approach. The truth is we can and we usually do use both approaches. And this is one of the way we can get very accurate and granular detailed diagnosis. So the short answer is we do both.
Okay. Another question is about the multi-tenant environment. So can I use your software for a multi-tenant environment?
Sure. Again, short answer is yes. It is multi-tenant, and you can collect monitoring information from multiple sites or multiple customers and have them in a single web console. So each customer would get a personalized view and personalized alerts and reports on the state of their particular instrument. We don't mix data between customers. You can do that, for example, if you're an MSP or Citrix service provider, you can do that for your multiple customers. Or if you're a large enterprise, you can actually use multi-tenant and have lines of business and other things where you don't mix data. So again, another long-winded answer from me, but its true answer is yes, it's multi-tenant.
Got it. And I mean, the question is also around scalability. So can the solution handle about 125,000 CCU sessions spread over 1,000 XD sites?
Well, the solution is scalable. I don't want to comment on a specific. I would probably want to lean on an engineer to get you a specific answer to that question. But so I'm not going to answer that one. But we will respond. Has that been captured in the chat?
Yes, it is. So
yeah. I'd like to have an engineer respond to that, if you don't mind.
Perfect. Another question is, do you support ZenMobile and ShareFile?
Yes, we support ZenMobile and ShareFile. Yes.
Got it. Another question is about licensing. So how does the licensing work for EG Enterprise?
The licensing can be based upon the number of data collectors. It also can be based upon concurrent users. So the best advice I can give you is to lay out what your monitoring requirements are, and we will brief you on what your licensing options are and why we would recommend one approach over another, typically for lowest cost, right? So, so there's a number of licensing approaches that give you a lot of flexibility. Between the universal agent and the flexible licensing, we can be very cost effective in terms of scaling it to specific monitoring requirements.
Got it. Yeah, and I think a follow-up question regarding that was server-based or agent-based licensing.
Say the question again?
The follow-up question on the licensing was around like, is it server-based or agent-based licensing?
It's typically driven by the scope of the monitoring. So the number of data collectors or the number of agents is going to drive cost, and the number of users. So it depends on your licensing approach, but it's the scope of monitoring that drives the cost, right? So the more that you're monitoring, the higher the cost.
Perfect. Another quick question was around does EG work with Citrix Cloud?
Yes, EG works with Citrix Cloud. We do have a blueprint on, I think it's on the Citrix Ready Marketplace. So short answer is absolutely. Matter of fact, we had that almost immediately after Citrix Cloud was announced.
Yeah, that's so if anybody's interested on that, we can share the link with you. It's searchable in the marketplace. The another question is around your SCOM plugin. So do you have a SCOM plugin, SEOM?
Yep, we have a what we call a Universal Management Pack for SCOM. We had a webinar on that recently, and that basically provides the EG automated diagnosis, and the EG dashboards are automatically pulled over into SCOM. So there's the states are updated automatically. Any dashboards published in EG Enterprise are available in SCOM. And all of the things that we discover, all of the non-Microsoft components like Citrix would automatically be registered in SCOM. So absolutely.
Got it. And like, and can the solution be provided as a cloud service?
Yep. EG can be provided either as a cloud service or an on-premise solution. And again, the best approach is really dependent on your short and long-term monitoring objectives.
Got it. There are a couple of NetScaler related questions. So like, what's the difference between EG and the NetScaler AMS?
Well, I'm not an AMS expert, so I may lean on you to this, but my understanding is AMS is really specifically NetScaler focused, and EG is really more digital service focused. So we are going to do non-Citrix components, which I didn't think NetScaler would do. On the flip side, I think NetScaler looks at wireline data. We don't look at wireline data, so they really complement each other. Really could use both, frankly.
Cool. And how long does it take to deploy the EG Enterprise?
Highly dependent on your scope of monitoring. The free Logon Simulator can be deployed very quickly. I would think less than an hour. And I would say most of the Citrix deployments, for example, we can deploy in a couple weeks. We need to get baseline data to begin providing meaningful notifications, and typically that's a week or two to get a good baseline. But the implementation is really pretty quick. It really depends on the scope of monitoring, what you're trying to do. I would say days and weeks, not weeks and months.
That's nice. That's perfect. And we have, so there's another question. We have requirements to report monthly on who is using the Citrix infrastructure for how long and what applications they accessed, etc. Can I use your tool for this?
Again, short answer is yes. Most of those requirements could probably be addressed using some of the pre-built Citrix reports that are included out of the box, like active sessions, application activity, application usage, user activity. Those are all kind of out of the box reports, and you can create your own reports too. But most of what you asked in that question are addressed via out of the box reporting.
And then there's a question about what we don't have Citrix. I'm running Exchange, SQL Server, SharePoint, and other Microsoft applications on ESX. Does your tool support this?
Yeah, again, one of the strengths of the service is the ability to monitor heterogeneous and multi-supplier digital business services. So we support almost 200 applications, over 10 operating systems, almost all the virtualization platforms and multiple storage devices. All of those are out of the box. The SharePoint and Exchange, SQL Server, those are all, I know for a fact those are out of the box. And if they're not, you can also add applications or devices using an integration console. Either we can train your staff to do that, or you can use a partner or EG to do that for you.
Got it. And as a service provider, I have to manage different customer networks. So can your tool operate across multiple distributed environments, and do you support multi-tenancy? Yeah, so I think that's the duplicate question.
Yeah, it's pretty much the answer is yep.
Perfect. So I think we have covered it all. So there are I see requests coming for sharing the presentation. So like we shared in the initial, the first half, we will be putting it on the slideshare.net.
Yeah.
So the call to action slide there. Okay. And there's another question being asked about please could you supply the link for free downloading the tool Logon Simulator? So I think
sure. Any questions, and all questions that have come over the chat will be answered. We respond to all questions that are submitted via the chat line. So we will be sure and send the link to. You will get all the slides, and you will get all your questions answered. And if you ask for any links, we will be sure and get you those links.
Perfect. So yeah, I think that should be the end of the call. I appreciate John for taking his time and sharing his experience with EG Innovation and uh, walking us through this and the wonderful demo. And last but not the least, I want to thank each one of you who are attended our webinar today in the Citrix Ready Technical Webinar Series, asked us questions, and kept this very two-way process. Thank you so much. And this shall conclude our broadcast. Thank you.
Thank you.